Fight Mike here. Today we're going to be breaking down all of Khamzat Chimaev's future opponents after UFC 319 took place over the weekend. We're going to be looking at the middleweight division itself and ranking the future contenders on how likely they are to beat Khamzat. Starting off with the easiest matchup in my opinion, which would be Khamzat Chimaev versus Israel Adesanya. And honestly, this matchup kind of just comes down to the ground awareness of Israel. It's no secret that Adesanya is a striker through and through. We've seen all of his kickboxing fights. He's not been doing MMA for the longest time. He's been doing it for a while though now. But the thing is that Khamzat's been grappling since he was a little boy. And once Khamzat grabs a hold of him, it is all over. And the thing is that Izzy relies heavily on leg kicks and keeping his range, and I feel like that will just lead to an easier takedown for Khamzat. And he'll have options catching a kick or cornering Izzy against the cage. Shooting early like usual probably would work as well. And even if, let's say, Izzy's able to use his footwork and get away from the initial takedown by kicking less, throwing knees, attacking the body, there's still a big chance that Khamzat will catch him with a punch. As we saw in the Imavov fight, if you shoot often on Izzy, he leaves his hands down sort of just to gain a natural underhook. And that's just going to open up the big hands of Khamzat. We've seen that he's got a lot of power in the hands. And if Khamzat tries to punch for a while, it's just going to make Izzy bring his hands back up, causing Khamzat to just shoot lower under the hands and just really getting the takedown quite easily. I think no matter what, Khamzat's going to be able to get that takedown within the first minute of the fight. And he's just going to have all the opportunities to duck under a 6'3", very tall and lanky Izzy's punches. And the thing is that Izzy doesn't time people with knees. He doesn't throw uppercuts as people are shooting on him. He's a defense first with the defense on the takedown. And we've seen people who just go for their first order takedown defense. It just doesn't really work against Khamzat because he reshoots and reshoots. He'll grab the body lock and then drag you down. And I think that Izzy's not got the tools to be able to deal with that in the fight. And I think that Khamzat, once he gets Izzy on the ground, will be able to use Izzy's long neck, his long limbs against him, getting like a Kimura from side control in the first round. Moving on to the next most difficult fight for Khamzat, or the next easiest fight for Khamzat, I believe it would be Khamzat versus Sean Strickland. Sean seems to believe that he would be the only guy to beat Khamzat. I just don't really agree with that. I think stylistically he finds Khamzat very difficult. And the thing is that they've trained together before, and we can only really gather what happened from those sessions from what people talk about. And a lot of people, anyone who's really spoken about these sessions, says that Khamzat was able to dominate Sean Strickland and really just have his way with him on the ground, submitting him multiple times. And whilst training is very different to the actual fight, I think Khamzat's got the skills to nullify someone's striking and just basically make it a grappling match like they would have in training. And the confidence that he would have after smoking Strickland in training, I think he'll bring that into the fight and really have a game plan to smother Strickland early and get the finish, because in training he's done it time and time again. And the thing is that since he's trained with Strickland, he's not going to have the same game plan that he had against DDP, where he knew that DDP was like somewhat dangerous and he can reverse positions. He's got good grappling himself. And he sort of had to pick position over submission every time because he didn't really know if he had the minerals to submit DDP in their fight. Whereas if he submitted Sean Strickland multiple times, then he's going to have the confidence to do it yet again. And similarly to Dricus' style of like running in, not having his feet under him, throwing a lot of kicks, Dricus has a very easy to take down. His style is just very easy to take down. And Sean Strickland, I think, is quite the same. Just because he's got the very upright stance. He throws a lot of straight shots, doesn't throw to the body much, doesn't change levels with his body, and he stands very upright, so he's very easy to take down. Although he's shown a very good ability to get up. Against who, though? We're talking about getting up against Dricus Du Plessis, who we've seen was dominated by Khamzat. Or he was getting up against Abus Magomedov, which we have seen people do time and time again. I'm pretty sure even Michel Pereira was able to get up and down from Abus's takedown attempts. And the thing is that with Strickland's upright stance, he just will be taken down very easily, and his way of defending punches is moving backwards and flinging his arms out. And that's just another opportunity for Khamzat to just duck under and get that takedown. The thing is, I do see Strickland having more of a shot against Khamzat than Adesanya would, but I just don't think it's enough. I think Strickland gives his back up a lot when he's getting up, and I think Khamzat would be able to capitalize on that, jumping on the back, getting a rear naked choke in the first round. Moving on to the next most difficult fight for Khamzat, which would be Chimaev versus Imavov. this is sort of where people start to put up a little bit more resistance for Chimaev, but I still think that Imavov loses by second round submission. The thing is about everyone else on this list is I think that Imavov has the best first order takedown defense. If you don't know what that is, it's just the initial sprawl or the initial takedown defense from the initial shot. But the thing is that I don't think, similarly to the round 1 of the Kamaru versus Chimaev fight, you see that Kamaru has very good first order takedown defense. His sprawl is really heavy on Chimaev, but he was just able to grab the leg of Kamaru and just drag him down on the reshot. And that's exactly what I think happens here. I think similarly to the Brendan Allen fight, Imavov gets taken down instantly, but he survives a round 1 on bottom. But the next round, I see him sprawling the early takedown. Then I see Khamzat grabbing the leg and doing his usual move of getting the single leg, moving around to the back from there, getting the body lock and dragging Imavov down. And although Imavov has some good submission defense, I don't guarantee it'll be that good. None of his opponents really have threatened like heavy submissions against him. And the thing is, especially from top, we don't see people try submissions on Imavov. Maybe that's due to awareness on the ground, but I think it's just stylistically people have found it difficult. But I think that Imavov survives most of the round. He'll stay in half guard for a lot of it, maybe in side control. And then I think that Khamzat's going to be able to get an arm triangle submission on him in the second round. If Brendan Allen is holding you down for a round in half guard, Khamzat Chimaev's going to do worse. So I think Khamzat gets him done by second round submission. Moving on to the next one, which is Khamzat versus Reina Derrida. This is much closer than the other ones that I've discussed. I know I said that Imavov is where it starts getting difficult. This is when it starts getting a little bit closer, a little bit more iffy matchups. I think, though, that RDR's height works against him. I think there's easy takedowns for Khamzat in the fight. I think that RDR being so tall will just lead him to being off balance and easier to topple over. And even though people talk about RDR's knees being a very big problem for Khamzat, but I really just see Khamzat following the knee into the takedown. I think he's going to feint the takedown early for the first 15 seconds, and as soon as he can draw out one knee, he's just going to follow it straight back into the takedown, because if he's thrown the knee, he's already on one leg, he's already ready to be toppled down. So I think that isn't really going to play into the fight. I think that will be more so of like a sign for when Khamzat should shoot for the takedown. But people talk about as well RDR's work from bottom being able to affect Khamzat Chimaev in the fight, but I really don't see it working at all. I don't. If you look at the last few months of the UFC, or the last year or so, maybe last 3 years, when have we really seen bottom control work against really high level wrestlers? You really can't answer that for me. I'm not talking about some guy who's unranked getting a triangle off bottom like Joseph Moraes against Ilibi Idris. Those guys aren't the type of guys that I'm looking to talk about. I'm talking about Anthony Hernandes versus Roman Dolidze. I even got roped into this where I was like, oh, the bottom work of Roman Dolidze. Oh yeah, he's a ADCC world champ, Oceania world champ. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but I just bought into all of these bottom control grappling credentials from Dolidze. And even though he's done it to good guys like Jack Hermanson, he pretzeled him up in a inverted leg lock or inverted calf slicer or something like that. And the thing is that that can work against the Jack Hermansons, but it's not going to work against the top 5 level guys like an Anthony Hernandez, a Khamzat Chimaev. And the thing is that I thought that Roman was going to be able to get these sweeps and these submissions off bottom, but Hernandez was just able to bully Roman the entire time, and Roman just had nothing off his back, and I think that this fight looks very similar. We've seen Khamzat roll with guys who have a good bottom control game. RDR's no different. I don't see Khamzat having that much trouble with him. I will say, though, I think RDR's BJJ awareness will be able to make him survive for a bit longer in the fight. Maybe rolling for leg locks and Granby rolls, but I just think that that's going to be his undoing. I think later in the fight, maybe 3rd and 4th rounds, he's going to be rolling for the leg locks, he's going to be going for the Granby rolls, and it's going to be half-hearted as well. He's going to be tired from being stuck inside control for 5 minutes of round 1, and I think that that's going to open up the ground and pound for Khamzat Chimaev. The thing is about the Dricus fight was that he really didn't have the skill to work jiu-jitsu off bottom. He was only really using his submission defense, and that sort of stopped Space being naturally given for ground and pound to be open, where Khamzat would have to like choose when he wanted to ground and pound. And honestly, he was well in his rights to just camp position and not really go for that same ground and pound. Whereas Adia's got the knowledge, he's had a lot of time in these jiu-jitsu tournaments, he's going to be able to give space on bottom, but I can see that space being his undoing later on in the fight, where Khamzat's going to be on top, raining ground and pounds, as he's like halfway through a leg lock attempt, with some hammer fist going to the jaw of Adia, and I think he'll be able to finish Adia by round 4 TKO. Moving on to the next most difficult fight for Khamzat, I think it would be Khamzat versus Dricus Du Plessis rematch. I think it will be a decision win for Khamzat again, and I think it looks pretty similar to the first fight. I do think Dricus can make some adjustments, but I just think that those adjustments are going to lead to Dricus maybe not getting taken down an extra time, not getting into crucifix, but I think that he's going to take more risks in this fight, and I think that's going to cause him to give up the back position, give up like an arm triangle position, just he'll make Khamzat work a little bit harder, but he's not going to be able to really make that much of a difference. I think the difference in wrestling between the two is just so starkly different that you just can't make that up within like a year's worth of training. And the thing is that, pardon me, I don't see Khamzat getting a finish on Dricus, even if Khamzat makes adjustments, because Dricus has really good submission defense, and it would show in a rematch. I think Dricus still gets dominated in referee's position. Maybe he fights the hands a little bit more, but he's still getting dragged down. And I think he still gets dominated in side control. I reckon it's a very similar performance between this one and his last. Moving on to the next most difficult opponent, it is Khamzat Chimaev versus Anthony Hernandes. I think this is a really tough fight, and this is the first guy on the list today that I can actually even visualize winning this fight. But the thing is that the strength of Khamzat will likely reign supreme in this fight. On a technical level, I think Fluffy poses a lot of threats, but I can see points in the fight where Hernandes tries to get up, almost gets up, but then the body lock of Khamzat still just dragging him down. I do think Khamzat will work really hard, and I think he gasses a lot more in this fight than any other on this list, but Hernandes doesn't have the straight KO ability to finish Khamzat, and even if you get Khamzat mouth breathing and you get him completely gassed out in the 4th and 5th rounds, you get him looking like Shamil Gaziev, I don't think you're submitting Khamzat. I don't think that there's a point in any fight that we're going to see Khamzat get submitted. And Hernandes doesn't have that power to flatline KO Khamzat when Khamzat's gassed. What I do see is I see him scrambling hard, going for reversals, having a hard whizzer, going for everything that he can possibly go for, but when he's almost on his way back up, I can see the body lock dragging him back down. I can see the front headlock just snapping him down. But I do see him wearing out Khamzat and winning a round or two by the end of the fight. But I still think that Khamzat positionally dominates Hernandes in the fight. If Brendan Allen is able to mount you and almost get a rear naked choke, Khamzat's going to be able to dominate you in points in the fight. And we've seen that a champion version of Khamzat is sometimes willing not to take the option of submission over position. And that's really going to help him in this fight, because we saw that Brendan Allen was having a lot of success against Fluffy, getting submission positions, but he was really choosing the submission over position. He would leap for the back at different times. He would go for the rear naked choke without having hooks in. Khamzat's not going to do that. He's going to know when he can positionally dominate Hernandes, and I don't think that Khamzat's going to get finished. So I think he's going to be able to dominate the first 3 rounds, make the 4th round pretty close, maybe a swing round, and in the 5th round, I think that Hernandes will dominate, but it's just not going to be enough to finish Khamzat. Moving on to the most difficult fight for Khamzat Chimaev, I believe this is going to surprise a lot of people, and I didn't think I was going to be picking this initially. I think it's going to be Khamzat versus Caio Borralho. I think Caio makes a very close decision out of this fight. And keep in mind, this is all matchup-wise. When you see my UFC Paris predictions, don't take this in as like MMA math, because I pick Imavov to lose to Khamzat by 2nd round submission, and I pick Borralho to lose by KO to Imavov, but then I pick Borralho to do the best against Khamzat. MMA doesn't make sense. None of this matters. I think Borralho is going to be the most difficult opponent for Khamzat for a number of reasons as well. On a base level, he's a very powerful guy. He's got very good striking. He's a good grappler. But on another level, I think he's trained with Khamzat a lot, and for a reason. It's not like Strickland training with Khamzat, where Khamzat rocks up to the gym to spar, to beat up some guys from Extreme Couture, to get some work in from Eric Nicksick. He's bringing in Caio Borralho to give him looks and give him work in his training camp. And Khamzat's not just asking some poor sod off the street who's got not a lick of takedown defense to get some work in. He's asking Caio Borralho because he's one of the best grapplers in the entire world in the MMA space. He beat Brendan Allen comfortably in a grappling match, and if you see Caio's fights, he has very good awareness on the ground. He's also very game plan heavy. He game plans very well for his opponents. And he was even one of the only guys to predict Strickland beating Izzy by exactly how he beat him, with frustrating him with the jab, taking away the kicks from him. Whilst being good at game planning isn't enough to beat Khamzat, as we saw from DDP, we've seen DDP game plan really well. I think in conjunction with Caio's experience with Khamzat, his knowledge of the game, his power and his grappling expertise, I think he's going to make a very difficult fight out of this. And the thing is that Khamzat's not unbeatable, but I think that he does beat all of these guys. This is probably one of the only, breaking down a new UFC champion's future opponents where I pick him to beat all of the future contenders. But this fight with Borralho, I do think will be the closest fight if Borralho can beat Imavov and make it there. I think Borralho poses significant threats in different parts of the fight that a lot of these other guys don't pose. So I'd be really interested to see the matchup. I just don't think it gets there. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like and subscribe as always, and I'll catch you next time. Peace.